Welcome to the Shepherd Staff Scheduler Overview webinar. I'm your host today, and my name is Jordan Bogart. I'm a software support technician here with Concordia Technology Solutions. I've been here for a little over 7 years, and I really appreciate the opportunity to serve our churches. If you look there, you can see my contact information. So there's my email address and my personal number here at my desk. So that's my desk number if you want to get in touch with me directly. I do want to note that all phones and microphones have been muted for this training session today. So if you have any questions at all, you'll have a questions window where you can ask any questions that you might have about the scheduler module. Just as they come to mind, go ahead and ask those questions. No need to wait. And myself or my manager, Rod Kyles, will be answering questions today on the scheduler module as we go through. So there's Rod's contact information. If you'd like to get in touch with Rod, you can see his email on his desk phone as well. So either one of us you can get a hold of, and I'll also have our support phone number and email address at the end of the webinar today as well. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at just kind of an overview of this class here. So just kind of getting into the class agenda. So how this is going to be structured is we're going to have our discussion. We're going to go ahead and just walk through the scheduler module, kind of each piece of the module, kind of how those pieces fit together. And so we're going to be looking at all that there. Then there is going to be a short quiz. No pressure. You're not being graded. We're not telling your pastor how you did and saying, "Oh, you're not doing good enough to be running shepherd staff of your church." By no means. This is just to see, hey, did what I say stick with you guys here during today's training? So just be aware we have that coming up as well. Then we'll have our Q&A session. And again, no need to hold your questions till then. You can ask your questions as they come to mind, but if you do end up holding your questions to the end, that's a great time to ask your questions. All right, so what actual content will we be covering in today's class? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So first up, we'll be talking about contacts. So the people that you are working with when it comes to scheduling events and rooms and using inventory and things like that here in the scheduler module. We'll be talking about inventory, and this is things that your church owns or has that you can keep track of in the scheduler module. We'll be talking about rooms, and rooms, while they can be actual rooms, they can also be different areas of your church or areas that the church uses. We'll then have events, and events are things that might happen in different areas that your church owns or is affiliated with. And then we'll be talking about ministry routes. Ministry routes is a way you can track, if you have a church van go out and pick people up in a neighborhood to bring them to church, this is how you can set that up, is through the ministry route system. And then we're going to be talking about a few reports as well. And then also some different tools we can use in the scheduler module. Okay, so that's what we're going to be covering here today. So with all that in mind, let's get started. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera here so we can focus on what's on the screen here in Shepherd Staff. And let's go ahead and open up Shepherd Staff and let's take a look. And also, real quick, I forgot to do this. I'm going to hide my taskbar. I apologize about that. There we go. All right, so let's jump into the scheduler module. Are calendars included in this session? Yes, calendars are one of the reports we'll be talking about. So we will be touching on calendars in this session. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start off by talking about contacts. Now, contacts are any people at your church who are going to be basically involved in hosting or helping out with certain events that happen at your church, or it could be people that you're maybe loaning out inventory to, or there's a lot of different ways you can use contacts. So with our contacts here, let's go ahead and you can see a listing of some of the contacts I already have here in the system. Let's go ahead and add in a new contact. So I'm going to click the add button down here at the bottom of the screen. And the first thing it does before we add a new contact is it does give you the option to take a person from your membership module and add them as a contact. So it brings up your listing of every person in your membership module who isn't already a contact and I could select them here. So let's go ahead and let's add, let's see, and let's go ahead and add Daniel Wilmoth here as a contact. So I'm going to choose Daniel Wilmoth. Click link selected person, and you can see that brings him up as a contact. Then he puts a little M for the membership module here. If I click this, is gonna go ahead and unlink their record from the membership module. It'll still keep his information here, but it's basically saying it's not tying it back to the membership module then at that point. Cancel that for now. Then you'll say what type of contact he is. And this is just kind of a way we can classify these contacts. And so we have a few options here. Now, if you click inside the box, you'll see this little box with the thumbtack icon out here. If I click here, I can manage this list. So I can add new options onto this list, or I can get rid of options from this list if I need to. Whatever you need to do. I'll leave that here for now. And then we can also add a photo of this person as well. Now, granted, we could do that if if this was a person who wasn't connected to the membership module. In this case, this is a person in the membership module, but they don't have a photo attached, so that's why that photo didn't come in here. But I can click notes here if I want to add notes to this contact, and there's a little help icon for more information from our help center on this as well. Now, you can see there's also two other options here, show in ministry routes and only show in ministry routes. Show in ministry routes is basically saying this is a person that we could use to basically be a person who is running that ministry route. So basically they're driving the church van, or maybe they're supervising the church van if it's a van full of kids or something like that, or they're actually somebody who is going to be somebody who's on that ministry route where we're picking them up. Now, the only show in ministry routes is saying we only use them in ministry routes. So we're only going to be picking them up, for example. Then we're not going to be using them for any other type of contact here. So, but I'm going to go ahead and we'll say we're going to show them in ministry routes, but not only show them in ministry routes. And then you'll see their contact information, which all got brought in from the membership module. You'll see their personal information here. So you can see, okay, well, he's in 8th grade and has that information there. Now you can say, if they're a member, you can check this box here, and that came in from the membership module. You can also say, again, for purposes of the ministry route, you can say a person has a commercial driver's license. So if you have like a church bus that requires like a CDL that you would need to have in order to drive, you can go ahead and check that box here. And you can also have parent and guardian information here also that you can fill in. Then we have an other tab, and this has some custom field options, and we're going to get into a little bit later in this on in this training how we can customize these custom field options to put in different fields that we may want to keep track of here, for example. Of different things. So we have drop list options where you can select options from a drop list. You have a text option where you can write in certain text, or a checkbox option. So like in the checkbox, we could say like background check complete. We can check this box, say yes, they've completed a background check. Once I've finished making changes to this contact, if I click save, that's going to go ahead and add that contact to the list. Now, I'm going to go ahead and also add somebody who's not from our membership module. So we're going to go ahead and add in Jack Wilson. And we're going to say that he is a part of our youth ministry. And we're going to go ahead and show him in the ministry routes. And he lives at 1234 Example Avenue. And his phone number, 555-55, whoop, puts that in there for me, 555-5555, 111-111-11, there. And an email address, and we'll say he has a commercial driver's license, and he is a member, and say his birthday is 1/10/1968, and if he's part of that, there can put all that information, but that should be sufficient for him. But let's go ahead and also show how we add a photo for him. So I can click, add a photo, and then I can go in here, and if I were to come in to select a file from Photo Explorer, I'd be able to navigate then on my computer to upload a picture of him. So real quick, if I grab that here, I could go through, let's see, I forgot to grab an image for him. We'll say he's this picture of a projector. He's really not, but we'll go ahead and you can see how I uploaded that. And I'll just delete that for now. But that's how we can go ahead and add our contact information in. Now, if you need to make any changes to a contact at any point, just simply click on them, click the edit option, and that will let you make any changes to this contact. If you need to make a copy of a contact for whatever reason, there's also a copy option. This will let you just go ahead and update, basically give you an exact copy of this person that you can make any changes that you need to make and then save them. So this is nice if you have maybe a couple that you want to put in, they have all the same contact information, you just need to change the name around. You could do that as well. Okay, so that's how we can add contacts into the system. All right, so next let's go ahead and talk about inventory. So inventory is things that your church owns. So you can see in here already, I have some folding chairs, for example. So I have 300 folding chairs here at the church, but we can add in more inventory as well. So let's go ahead, and I had that image of a projector. Let's add that projector here into our items. So I'm going to click the add button here. And we'll name this item, we'll call it projector. All right. And then I can click the photo icon here, and I'm going to go ahead and upload that picture of the projector. So here's our projector. And we'll say this picture was taken on 5/5/2020. Okay, so there's our projector. And again, you can add any notes you might want about that there as well. Just click the save icon when you're done. Okay. Then you can say what type of equipment it is. Now, again, this works just like the other drop-down box we looked at here before. So if you click this little thumbtack icon here, you can go in and you can say what type of item this is. We'll say this is audio visual. So we'll add that to the list, and we'll say this is audio visual. Let's see, contacts can be viewed by everyone who has access to the scheduler module. Contacts are not individual contacts based on login. I don't know off the top of my head on that. We can take a look at that here as far as permissions go. That way we would have probably covered a little bit more in our system administration training when we talked about users, but we can take a look at that towards the end of the training here today. Now, there is an option here to say if an item is out of service. So you can check this box here. That will give it that out of service status then to let you know, hey, basically, we need to get this item worked on. And then you can say what location this is in. So we'll say this is in the sanctuary. All right. And then we can assign this to a different room. We'll talk different rooms here when we get to the part where we are talking about rooms. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. We can loan this equipment out to people. We'll talk about that in just a moment here as well. And then we can add maintenance records here for this item as well. Now we do need to save this item before we can add any maintenance records in. So I'm going to save this item here. And then I'm going to edit it. And then I can come in here and I can add maintenance records to this item. So if somebody had to work on this item for whatever reason, you can go in here and say, okay, what date did this maintenance take place on? So maybe we put that in there. Now it shows mileage here. That's really, of course, used for something like a vehicle, which we can talk about vehicles in just a second. They're a special type of inventory. Then you can say who did this maintenance. So you're going to pick one of your contacts. We'll say Dave Abbott did this work. And we'll just say regular maintenance on this. And if there's any invoice or receipt number for that, you can put that in there, and you can then put in the cost. So maybe it was $50. And we'll say then that this was a bulb replacement. Okay, and then any additional notes you might want there. If I click save, then you can see here is that maintenance record that we have. And you can then edit this record or delete it if you would need to. We click save, and there we go. There is our projector. Okay. One more thing I forgot to mention. Oh, here, sorry, back to the, I knew I missed something here. In the other details section, we have a few other things we can say about this. So we can say manufacturer and model, when we bought this item then at that point. So what we can do here is we can say, X brand, and let's see here, put that in there. And then you can say, acquired on, and we'll say this was acquired on, go back here and say, back in 2020, I think we said May 5th, 2020. And then you can put in the receipt or invoice number, so you can add that in there. So that should answer your question there about adding the invoice bill number. You can put that in there, and you can also put the serial ID number, and you can say where you bought it from as well. Then there's a valuation section here. So then you can say, all right, what's the original value of the item? So this is originally valued at, let's say, $1,000. And then, you might figure, okay, how it depreciates at whatever rate per year. So it's been over a year. So let's say it's lost $50 of value. So now it's worth $950. And we'll say the current value was as of, we'll say going back to May 5th of 2021 at that point. And we can save that there. Okay, can an inventory be added to the inventory item and cross-reference that to the inventory record? Project inventory number 110 and then inventory record 110 is linked to the projector. I don't quite think it works like that. All the items here, there's no like inventory number here necessarily. Again, you have serial numbers, serial ID numbers, and receipt or invoice numbers you can attach to these, but there's not like a specific inventory number for this item here. Let's see here. We'll get to the calendars here just a little bit later on in our training, so we'll take a look at that in just a little bit here, Marcia. Okay, so that's where we have, that's our inventory here. Let's go ahead and talk about vehicles. Now, as I mentioned briefly, vehicles are just a special type of inventory. So basically, they have just a few additional details added to them. So let's go ahead and add in a vehicle here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this vehicle. We're going to go ahead and call it a church bus. And I have an image of our church bus. Let's go ahead and upload that. So here's our church bus. You can see it right there. And we'll say that was from earlier this year. Save that. There it is. And then you can say what type of inventory equipment type it is. It's a vehicle, and then you can say if that item is out of service as well. We'll just say this is in the church parking lot. Okay, and you can see it has all the same tabs as any other piece of inventory, but it has its own special tab here called vehicle info. And this has information that's specific to vehicle. So bus vehicle number. So if you have a specific, if you have multiple church buses or something like that, or you're in a school, maybe you have multiple school buses, you can put in the different numbers for these different buses here. Make, model, and year, you put that in. So bus brand, bus, and 2019, and then license plate number, maximum occupancy, so we'll say conceit 25, and then it's vehicle identification number, you can put that in there. Any insurance information you want to include about it, you can write in here as well, and then you can say if this is wheelchair accessible, and if it requires a CDL to drive it. And then, of course, like I said, all the other inventory options are here also. You'll be able to see and include there. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And there's our church bus. Okay. So another thing we can do here is we can keep inventory of keys. So you might have keys for different things at your church, whether that be keys to rooms, whether that be keys to a safe, just keys for different items that we offer here that you might have at the church. So you can see I already have a list of a few keys here, but let's go ahead and add in one more. So I'm going to click the add button here, and you can go ahead and put in a key number. Now there's no pre-built key numbering system into Shepherd Staff, so we don't have anything like built in for key numbers. So it's kind of up to you on how you guys would like to number these out. I'm going to go ahead and call this key number 008. You'll say what type of key this is for, and again, you can add categories to this just like you can with many other drop lists. So just choose which one you're working with here. So let's say this is a safe key, and that safe is then located in, let's go ahead and say this safe is located in our music room. Add that in there. And you can also add a photo key. I don't have a picture of a key to add in here, but just works just like adding a photo for any other piece of inventory. And then you have a key description, and you can describe what that key might look like and things like that. And then you can also even say if the key is assigned to a particular person. So if you check this box, you can choose a contact who currently has this key. So we'll go ahead and say that Kent Williams has this key, and we're going to say what date that we gave it to him. So let's say we gave him that key then on way back here. Let's say we gave it back to him all the way back in June of 2015. And you can just leave, and you can leave this date returned open until they actually return the key. And when the key is returned, then at that point, you can then uncheck this assigned box and have, hey, this is the date it was assigned, this is the date it was returned. And whenever you assign it to a new person, you check this box again, you'd update the date assigned, you'd clear out the date returned at that point. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and now Kent Williams has the key to the safe in the music room. So that's how we can assign out our keys then. All right. Now the next thing we have here are maintenance records. Now you saw me add a maintenance record to the projector here just a little bit ago, but we can also add maintenance records here from the maintenance window. And one thing I forgot to show, let me show this here, because this grid, these work just like any other grid here in the redesigned modules that we've had. But you can actually search through these grids using the search functions up here. So, if I want to find all the keys to the music room, I can just type in music room, press enter, and here's all my music room keys, for example. Or I can filter by different types of items here as well. So if I want to find all my building keys, well, here's all my building keys. Or if I want to find, and if I refresh this, I'll have safe as an option here as well. Some grids offer different types of filters, like for example, here with the inventory, I can look at items that are in service only or out of service only, or just all my items. But anyway, let's get back to the maintenance record. Sorry, I missed that bit there. Here in the maintenance screen, you can say, all right, you can filter by maintenance type. So in this case, I'm only so far using regular maintenance or vehicle repair. So I can go ahead and add, I can filter by either one of those types. But let's go ahead and click the add button here, and let's add a maintenance record for that church bus. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my church bus here, and we're going to say we had maintenance done on that, let's say right at the end of September. The mileage on the church bus at the time was 35,000 miles. The maintenance was performed by, and again, we'll say, for example, here, let's say Jack Wilson was the one who got this done. We'll say this was regular maintenance, and we'll say in receipt number 1234, cost was $75, and we'll say oil change. So we'll say oil change and oil filter change. And then you can say any notes you might want there as well. We click save. That's going to add that maintenance record for the church bus at that point. So that's how we can add in our maintenance records. Now, the last part of the inventory screen here is the loans section. Now, there was a question, does maintenance record with costs also enter into the financial part of the program? No, they do not automatically get entered there. So you would need to let anybody who's running the finance module know that, about those costs so they can properly enter those into the finance module. Okay, so the last part of inventory here is loans, and this is if the church is loaning an item out for a contact to use. So with the loans, what we can do here is we can press the add button, and this is going to take us into the add loan screen. So what I can do here is I can choose first off who's borrowing this item. So let's say that Teresa Carter is borrowing the item, and she is going to be borrowing some folding chairs. All right, so, and you see these plus signs here, and this is how you can quickly go in and add a new contact or add a new inventory item here. Then you can say how many of the folding chairs she borrowed. So let's say she borrowed 25 folding chairs, and we loaned those out. Let's say we loaned those out last Saturday, and we said, okay, these need to be returned by next Saturday. And then once that item has been returned, you can say what date this has been returned on. Now, you can say where they're going to be using them and the reason why they're going to be using them. So borrowing chairs for daughter's wedding. And you can say where that's going to be, and then any notes that you guys might have about that. And then if you click save, that's going to add that maintenance record. Now, if this due date passes and the person still hasn't returned the item, we can go ahead and you'll get a little reminder icon up here. It'll look like a string tied around a finger, and it'll basically be a reminder to you saying, hey, there's an item that's been loaned out that hasn't been returned yet. You may want to get in touch with the person who has that item, or update the due date if that's the case as well. So this is a good way to keep track of those items that you might be loaning out to people at your church. Okay, so that's how we can do loans. And that's going to cover our inventory section. So let's move on next to talk about rooms. Rooms are basically different areas at your church, or maybe not at your church. It maybe is an location that's off-site. If you, for example, have a Bible study maybe at a local restaurant, like so we have a Bible study here at Panera Bread, for example. You could go ahead and put that in here as a room that you guys might use. So here in the events section under rooms, we can see a listing of all the different rooms our church might use. So let's go ahead and add in a new room. Let's click the add button here. And let's go through here and we can go ahead and name this room. So let's say we're going to add our gymnasium to this list. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. There's our gymnasium. And then you can type in what size this room is. Now, size is kind of a general descriptor. There's not like a drop-down list where you pick from, small to extra large or something like that. You just kind of say what it is. We'll say this is a large room. It is a gymnasium. And then you'll say what location this is at. So maybe we'll say this is on church campus. And I can also just press the tab key to add that here. And then we'll put in the maximum occupancy. So let's say the maximum occupancy of our gym is 500 people. And then you can say what type of room this room is. So we'll go ahead and say this is a recreation room. Now, there's also an option to say that this room is active or inactive, or if this box isn't checked, that means the room is inactive. Now, if a room is active, that means you'll be able to go in and schedule events for there. We'll talk about events here in just a minute. If a room is inactive, it will not be available for you to schedule events on. And a room might be inactive if you're doing maintenance in that room, and maybe that room's going to be closed off for a while. You might come in here and make that room inactive while that's happening. Of course, again, you have the option to add a photo of this room, so that's where you can add in a picture of the gymnasium. Works just like it does for inventory. You can add that there. And then what we can do is we can assign default contacts for this room. So basically saying, hey, if you want to use this room, or you need some help using this room, this is the person you want to talk to, or these are the people that you want to talk to. So let's say with the gym, we're going to say that Dave Abbott and Teresa Carter are the people you want to talk to about using the gym. These are the people who are typically going to be involved when it comes to the gymnasium. Then you can say here, all right, what inventory should be assigned here as well. So if I let's say, okay, we're going to say the folding chairs are involved here, and let's say we keep 100 out of the 300 available folding chairs available in our gym. We keep those there. So you can see those are here in our gymnasium. So if I click the save option here, this is going to go ahead and add the gymnasium to this list of rooms here. Okay, so we have different types of rooms here. Here's our sanctuary, for example, and you can see, all right, Teresa Carter, Arlene Dowling, Kent Williams, and you can see how those different contact types might come into play here. So obviously, okay, well, the pastor is going to be involved in the use of the sanctuary, but you might give, and maybe he's the one who would conduct a wedding here. But really, maybe you'd want to talk to Teresa Carter about scheduling that wedding there. She'd be the administrator, or maybe Arlene would be the person you talk to for that as well. So again, these different rooms are going to have different people assigned and different inventory assigned depending on their purpose. Okay, and so that is how we can work with our rooms. All right, so now that we've added our inventory, our vehicles, we talked about keys and loans and inventory, now we can finally talk about adding events. So let's go ahead and go into the event view here. In the event view, you can see there is a ton of different events here. Now this events view, when I look at it, the items that are in blue here, these are events that have already happened. You can see the date for those events have already passed. It shows you within about the last week or so what events have already passed here. After a little bit here, you can see it'll fade. So you can see there's a checkbox here that says hide any events that are less than 10, 12, 21. So if I uncheck that box, you can see it's going to show us all our past events going all the way back to 2012, which is where we kind of got started in this database. But I'm going to go ahead and just check that box here to pare down what we're looking at. Although you can see in the bottom right corner, we still have over 6,000 events that we have here on our schedule, so quite a few. And now here in this events view, this works just like any other grid here in Shepherd Staff. Right now this is sorted by date, but I can sort this by event, and I can see here's all my adult Bible studies, for example. And I have this repeating for a very long time, going all the way through like 2030 here, it looks like. Or I can sort by event type. So here's, I'm sorting by business planning or education. Date, I can sort by any of these fields that are in italics. You can't sort by these, but you can sort by room. So lots of different things we can sort by here. Let's go ahead though and talk about adding an event. So I'm going to click the add button here, and let's add an event to that gymnasium that we just created here. So we're going to call this event, let's call it youth basketball. All right, and that's going to take place in the gymnasium. Now, an event can actually be part of more than one. An event can be involved with more than one room. So if you have different rooms involved, maybe you have the gymnasium where the games take place, and then you're going to have maybe some refreshments over in the fellowship hall. You can go ahead and add that fellowship hall on here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put those two rooms in here. And it's then going to ask me, one or more of the rooms have contacts or inventory assigned. Would you like to use them for this event? So that's where assigning the inventory to specific rooms or assigning contacts to specific rooms is going to help you out, because it'll ask you automatically, well, hey, do we want these people to be involved with this? So we'll go ahead and say yes. And automatically, it's added Dave Abbott, Teresa Carter, and Kent Williams to these events because they are involved. They are basically a part of either the gymnasium or the fellowship hall. It also went ahead and automatically gave us those 100 folding chairs to use for this event as well. All right. So now what we're going to do is come back up to the top and we're going to choose the date for this event. So let's say this is coming up this Saturday. And looking at this Saturday, let's say it's going to be a Saturday morning event. So we're going to start this at 11 a.m. and it's going to be wrapped up by 2 p.m. And we'll say what type of event this is. We'll go ahead and add that onto the list here. And let's say this is going to be a recreation event. Oops, that there. I'll just choose recreation right there. Any notes you might want about the event, and then you can say kind of what's our expected attendance on this event. So let's say we're expecting a turnout of about 50 people. Okay, now it is going to show you here other events that take place in the same date on the same rooms. This is going to help you navigate around scheduling conflicts. Now, if I were to try to schedule another event for this room here, like let's say an event for the same time, like let's say I was originally planning on this going from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Well, if I try to save that, it's going to tell me, hey, the following contacts are already assigned to a different event that takes place at the same time. They're going to be involved in Saturday worship. So it's going to let you know, hey, you're going to double book these people if you try to do that. So it gives you a warning about that too. And if I continue anyway, it'll still let me add that. But again, it just kind of gives you a warning that, hey, you're going to be double booking these people. So I'm going to go back and just fix that time again and put it back at 11 a.m. and have that run through 2 p.m. So it'll let you know if you're going to double book anybody for that. Okay, so there's my event here. So there we go. That adds that youth basketball event. Now with events, we can also go through here and we can repeat events. So after we set up the first instance of this event, let's say this is going to be a monthly thing. We're going to have our youth basketball once a month, going forward. So I'm going to click the repeat option here. And this is going to let me pick an event. So youth basketball here on October 23rd. Let me take a look at that. It's going to be the 4th Saturday of the month. So let's say then, let's do same day of the month each month. So this is going to be, for example, it says for the second Sunday of each month. So that's basically saying, in this case, it's going to end up being the 4th Saturday of each month. And then you're going to, so you can do this, every day of the week, same day of the week every week. You put that in there, same day of the week every other week, same day of the month each month, or consecutive days. So you're saying basically, all right, this event's going to happen every day, starting on whatever day. And then you say how many times this is going to repeat. So let's say this is something we're going to be doing going forward from now. So let's put it in for a good number of times. Let's say this is going to be happening over the next 50 times. We're going to say next 50 times. So this is going to create 50 events, 50 youth basketball events, and it's going to show you the dates for each of these here. And you can see, oh, well, one of these lands on Christmas. So we're going to have to already fix that probably, but we'll just save that for now. So you can see those all show up there. We'll click save. And it's going to take a minute to go ahead and add these events. I probably shouldn't have added so many, but that's okay. It's coming along here. And so that's going to add those events all for us. And yeah, there we go. So now we have that youth basketball event, and I can go through here and I can see that here on my list. So if I get to, oh, there's the 27th, there's that youth basketball event again. And as we recall, we had that youth basketball happening on Christmas. Now I doubt we're going to be having basketball, basketball in the gym on Christmas. So what I can do is I can always come in and edit this. I can always come in and edit this one, or just delete this one instance of this event here, for example, if I needed to. So let's go ahead and say, after the new year, we realized we're going to change the time for this youth basketball event. So here in the new year, January 22nd, I'm going to go in and edit the time on this. And let's say instead of starting at 11 a.m., we're going to be starting at noon now. And then we're going to have that run through 3 p.m. So we are changing the time. And let's say that's the way it's going to be going forward. It's going to be from 12 to 3 instead of 11 to 2. So I'm going to click the change option here. And what this is going to do is this is going to take the event that we have selected right now, take the changes that we've made to it. So this has to be done on a repeating event. So an event we've set up to repeat. And we can say we want this to happen on all 47 future events, or we can say all future events within a specific time period then. So it's going to go ahead and make those changes. So I'm going to say, all right, let's just do that for all 47 future events. If I click continue, then it's going to go through and update each of those events. It's going to show me a listing of all the events it's going to change. And if I click save, this is going to go through and update each and every one of those events. And now going forward here, if I look at, let's say, the February basketball event, you can see now it's running from 12 to 3 instead of 11 to 2. So that's how we can go ahead and update our events here. Okay. Another question we had here, can events be integrated with Church 360 website events, or will it at some future time? They can't be integrated with the Church 360 Unite website calendar at this time. No plans for that currently, but I can certainly enter that as feedback to our team to consider. So stay tuned on that one. We'll go ahead and put that in as feedback to our team to consider. All right, next up here, we have ministry routes. Now, ministry routes, what this is used for is if you, for example, let's say your church has like a church van or a bus, and you go out to a neighborhood and pick people up to bring them to church, and then after church you take them back home. So this is a manager for that kind of system. So what we're going to do here is let's go ahead and create a new ministry route. Now, I already have one here for Sunday morning worship. Let's say we're going to go ahead and we have a Wednesday. Let's say we have a Wednesday evening service that we also pick people up for. So let's go ahead and call this route Wednesday evening service. We'll say what type of route it is. We can stick with that worship attendance. But again, if I click here, I could add other options to this. Location of the route, we can say, okay, you could say like what neighborhood this is going to be in, or you could even just say something generic like local. And again, it's a drop list. You can put in whatever you want here, and then any notes you might want on this event. So now what we're going to do is we're going to assign riders. So basically the people we're picking up and dropping off, and so riders / contacts. And then workers / drivers. So people who are going to be driving the route / supervising. Let's say again, you're picking up a bunch of kids. You probably want somebody riding shotgun with the driver to keep an eye on the kids so the driver can focus on driving. But let's go ahead here and let's put in our workers and drivers first here. So let's go ahead and take Jack Wilson. He's going to be one of our drivers. He's going to be one of our drivers. And you can say if you want to, you can add a category and say what he is. So I'm going to say specifically he's a driver here. And any comments you might want, you can add that. So we'll continue on here. So he's a driver, and it lists his contact information here. Let's say also Dave Abbott's going to ride along as well, and he's going to be a supervisor. Okay, so we've added them on here as workers. You can also see what vehicles you have available. So it's looking specifically at the vehicle section of inventory. So we're going to add the church bus on, and you can add any comments you might want about that. All right, now we're going to add the people who are picking up on this route. So let's go ahead and add the Moores to this route. So we're going to say pickup, so basically then it's going to ask us our pickup and drop off numbers. So basically saying in the course of the route, what order do we pick up people up in and drop people off at? So let's say we're going to pick them up first. We're going to pick Mabel Moore up first, and let's say we're going to drop them off last. So let's say there's going to be 5 people on this ministry route, so we're going to drop her off last because that's the way our route's going to work out. So the pickup time is going to be the time we're going to pick them up for this. So let's say our services start at 6:30, so we're going to pick them up at 6 p.m. And we'll say our services get done by 7:30, so we're going to be dropping them off at the latest by 8 p.m. We'll save that in there. Let's go ahead and add in Walter, and you can see it does automatically increment these numbers up here. So so in this case though, we're going to go ahead and say he's number 4 and then pick up number 2. Now technically they're together, but you have to give each individual person their own pickup and drop off number. So even though we're picking them up at the same time, then we're going to go ahead and give them their own unique pickup and drop off numbers. Okay, let's go ahead and add in the rest of these people here. So let's add in Daniel Wilmoth. We're picking him up then 3rd, and he's going to be the 3rd we also drop off then here. And we're going to, so he only lives a couple minutes away, so let's say we're going to pick him up by 6:05. And let's get Derek Woods. We're going to pick him up 4th. Oops, pick him up 4th and drop him off 2nd. So we'll say he's there at 6:10. And Timothy Wright, he's going to be picked up last at 5th, but he's going to be dropped off 1st. And we'll say we'll pick him up at 6:15. And I forgot to adjust the drop-off times, but you can always go back to a person and adjust those drop-off times here. So I can go through here and say, all right, well, let's go with, go down here just a second. Let's say Daniel Wilmoth here. If we're dropping, we'll say he gets dropped off at 7:55. And you can see I can just go in and adjust it like that. Okay, so this is we've now set up our ministry route. So this is how we're gonna work for our Wednesday evening service. So now that we've prepared our ministry route, now what we can do is we can start entering in route summaries. So this is basically an individual instance of this route happening. So if I click the add button here, this is going to say, all right, what ministry route are we working with? Let's say the Wednesday evening service. Let's go ahead and say this is for last Wednesday, and then you can say what type of summary was this. We'll say Wednesday worship, the type. Add that on. And there we go. Now, what we can do on this here is we can say, all right, how many were we expecting to have on this route? Well, let's go ahead and say we were expecting to have 5 people on this route. How many people actually showed up? Let's say we only had 4. And then you can say the number of well, actually, let's be optimistic. Let's say we had 7. And we had then 2 visitors then at that point here. Well, actually here, sorry. Let's go ahead and say 5 writers, 2 visitors. So we actually, our total writers / contacts in this case is going to be 7. You can say how many miles this was. You can say who the driver was. In this case, we will go ahead and pick. So we'll go ahead and say who our driver was. In this case, it was Jack Wilson. And then there's a custom text field here and a custom checkbox. And again, we'll go over how we can change those as well. And then assistant, and we'll go ahead and put in Dave Abbott here. Okay, and then you can say how many miles you went, how many stops you had, and what the quantity of those, how many different people you had then on that trip. So we can save this. That adds that route summary records. That's just a summary of what happened on that route. Now, the other things we have here are these route contacts here. can see these are all the people who are on your different ministry routes. You can see a listing of all those people there, and then you can see a listing of your route workers as well. So this is how we set up our ministry routes. So you can see here's all our people who work on these different routes. You can see Dave Abbott's on here twice because he works both the Sunday morning worship and the Wednesday evening service as well. And you can see the route contact shows us who all is getting picked up for that route. So that's how we can work with our ministry routes. Now, if you click the print option here for the Wednesday evening service, well, you can get a listing of your different ministry routes that you have there. And same thing with the route summaries. You can print this out to get a listing of your different routes that you guys run. So there's everything for Sunday morning worship, and here's for our Wednesday service as well. All right, so that is, let's go ahead here and jump over to, pull this up here, and let's look at the route details report here. So the route details report, what we would do, this is something we can go ahead and we can prepare a checklist for our drivers for people that we're going to pick up and drop off. So if I do the contact checklist here, it's going to choose how we want this sorted. I'm going to do this in pickup order, and I'm going to do this for the Wednesday evening service. And you can include any pieces of information you might want for this list. So if I click the print option here, this is going to give us our, this is going to go ahead and give us our route checklist that we can send along with the driver. And so he can have, the driver can have this handy, they can go through and you can print this off for them. And then as they pick people up, they check this box off. Or if they didn't, or they came here and it turned out, well, hey, they're not actually here today, or they're not going to be coming today, we can check this roll option to say, hey, we didn't pick them up. And you would just go through here, and as you're driving, you just check this off, and you just click this on and click this off for every person that you pick up and then drop off later. Okay, so there's your route contact checklist. There's also the route details report. The route details report, it's kind of like the checklist. The only difference is it just doesn't have the check boxes here. So this is a good way to see, who all is on the list and give you their contact information if you need to get in touch with them. And there's also a generic checklist option here. This is just a checklist where it doesn't have like the roll options. This just lets you write in a result instead if you want to say like kind of what happened here. So if you would prefer a generic checklist option instead. All right, and so that is the ministry routes then at that point. Summary looks confusing. Hold on just a second here. Why wouldn't you connect the ministry route to the summary for the wrap-up info? I guess I'm not quite understanding that question here. Why wouldn't you connect the ministry route to the summary for the wrap-up info? I guess I'm not quite understanding that. Tell you what, we'll continue on for now. If you can clarify that question a little bit, Marcia. You're rebuilding the route when entering the summary. Well, the idea is you're not rebuilding the route, you're recording what happened on the route. This is basically so you can keep track of the weekly, basically like the weekly comings and goings of this route. So the route itself is, here's who we're planning on having, here's what we actually ended up having. So this lets you record the results of this route. So this is saying basically, hey, we expected to have everybody on our list. What actually ended up happening is we had more or less people on our route than at that point for this particular week. So that's why we have that date there. It's saying this is what happened on this particular day. We're recording the results of that. Hope that cleared that up. Okay, let's continue on to talk about some reports now. So we have quite a few different reports here in the scheduler module. The first one I want to point out here actually isn't in this report section, but it's this month at a glance report. So this is a sort of a quick calendar here. This shows us all the different events that we have here planned in our scheduler. Now there is another calendar report we're going to look at here in just a second. This one is just kind of a quick at a glance report. This one, you can copy it to your Windows clipboard. So if you want to like paste it into Word, you could do that there. And so I can then take this into Microsoft Word and print it out, but there's not a print option directly from here. You can also choose how you want this filtered. So I can show or hide different types of events. So I can say like, oh, show me scheduler events, or show me the room names for scheduler events, or show the ending time, or show me the birthdays or the anniversaries, or do I want to include non-members and visitors on this? And you can see kind of how you want to filter this. And then if you click this, if you clicked on another day, you can just click the show today and it'll jump you back to today. And then you can choose what group of people you want to see as far as it comes to like birthdays and wedding anniversaries and things like that. So this is a month at a glance here. So this is going to let you see, and then you can go forward to future months or back to previous months as well. So that's our month at a glance. Now, probably what you're going to be using more often though here is the calendar report. The calendar report is basically kind of a more customizable, printable version of the calendar that you might use here in the scheduler module. So what you'll do here first is you'll pick the type of calendar that you're working with. So a couple different options. There's the fixed space calendar, basically that's saying here's the amount of size we have. Doesn't matter how many events we're trying to fit in, this is how much space we have. So if we run over that amount of space, we're simply not going to have those events on here. Fixed space, 8.5 by 14 legal. That just kind of works with a larger piece of paper. Then you have the variable space. What that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and change the height of the rows to make sure all the events fit in for each day. You can do a 1 week calendar that just looks at one particular week, starting from a particular Sunday. A calendar in CSV format, so you could you could import that into another service. Then at that point, another service like Outlook or Google Calendar or something like that. There's also an HTML option that will take this and export it out to HTML format if you want to export out to like a website and have an HTML calendar on your website. That's not talking about Church 360 Unite. It has its own calendar service that is separate from that. And then there's a blank calendar, which just gives you the calendar for a particular month, or blank with any holidays on it as well. Let's go back to the fixed space option here. So these next 4 options we see here are filters. So this is the way we can filter our calendars. So let's say we want to filter this so we get a calendar that only shows us events that Dave Abbott's a part of. I could go ahead and select that there. Or I can say, all right, I want to make a calendar for a particular room. So maybe give me a gymnasium calendar. Or I want a calendar for a particular room type. So I want all my recreation calendars here. Or I can say, all right, all my everything that's on the church campus. Well, I can put that in there. Or if I choose the not entered option for either one of these, this is saying I want, any event that doesn't have a room type entered on it or a room location entered on it. You'll then pick the year and month that you're running the calendar for. You'll choose what types of events you'd like to include on the calendar. And then we include a ton of different options that you can pick from to include on the calendar. So standard holidays, user-defined holidays, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, birthdays and wedding anniversaries, people's age. If you're showing birthdays, you can say, hey, this is their age if they're under 22, the number of years they've been married for wedding anniversaries, event beginning times, event beginning and end times, if you want to show both on there, event type in the page headers, and what room name we're talking about here. So if I click print here, this is going to show me my calendar. And this is the fixed space option. Each day in the calendar is the same size. So this is a standard looking calendar. Now, you can see the difference when I do the variable space option here. You can see, this first week of the year is kind of shorter because it doesn't have all the Sunday events on it, but the Sundays kind of stretch out the rest of the weeks just a little bit to fit everything on just a little bit better. So this is going to adjust your size, the sizing of the calendar to make sure we're utilizing the space properly for each week. Now you can do like the HTML for websites. So you could go ahead and it does give you kind of a warning about this is, hey, select one of the fixed or variable formats, preview it, and then use the export function in the lower right. So if I do like fixed space and then do an export to HTML, this is going to go ahead and give me an HTML version of the calendar. That does save that to my computer. So this is the location on my computer. And then again, if you build your own if you're building your own website, this could take this HTML calendar and place it on your website. Now this doesn't have a live connection to your Shepherd staff. So if you make changes in Shepherd staff and you want to update this calendar, you need to export it again to HTML and put it back on your website. So that's just another thing you might do there. Okay, so we have that. So that's our calendars. We offer, like I said, a lot of different things we offer there. Then we have an event report, the event list. So this is basically showing us a listing of different events and different event types and dates and things like that. So we can say, you know, we want to filter. These again are all filters, filtering by event type, by room. So if I want to see all the events in a particular room, that use a particular type of inventory or for a particular type of contact, and you can choose a date range for these events, and you can choose to include these pieces of information. If I print this out, this is going to show me just instead of in calendar format, this is going to show me a list format of all these different events with those details on there. You can see it'll show you the contacts, the rooms, any inventory being used. You'll see all that there. So this is going to give you events in a listing format instead of a calendar format. Okay. Next up, we have, go back here. So we have an event list, and then this can show just, hey, here's anything for a future event here. So if I do for my Bible studies, here's a listing of any future events we might have there. If you need to get just a listing for a single event in the future or a single event in the past. Next, we have our inventory list. This is going to give us a listing of all our different inventory, and you can do this based on if these items are in service and out of service or of any type. And then again, you can filter this by inventory type, the rooms that these inventories are in, what room types these inventories are being used in, what locations they're being used in. And if you go ahead and say, let's see, in service, where do we change that off here? Just a second. What is going on here? There we go. And then if you check this acquire between, you can say like, oh, I'm looking for different any inventory we've acquired between a certain time period. That does require that you filled out when you acquired that particular type of inventory. I'm going to leave that unchecked here for now, though. Okay. You can include any of this information, so location of the inventory, notes, identification details, acquisition details, and rooms quantity. And if I preview this, this is going to show me, all right, well, I only had the audio, the projector here. I only had the projector as part of audio visual. Let's switch back to all. And there we go. And so here's these different inventories that we have here. And you can see here's the different items that we have. And it shows you what rooms these are in. Here's the receipt or invoice number, serial number ID. You can see all that good information listed there. That's our inventory list. You also then have room usage, your room usage report. This is a great report for basically seeing, hey, how is this room being utilized at a particular time? So let's say we're talking about the sanctuary, and you can filter this also by different room types. And let's say I want to see everything that's happened in the sanctuary between between these dates here. And I can show those. And this is going to show me all the different dates the sanctuary is going to be used on and what events it's going to be used for. So I have, in that date period, I have 52 contemporary worship events, 52 Saturday worship events, 52 traditional worship events in the sanctuary. And it shows me the individual dates these are happening on. And this shows me the occurrences by month and occurrences by weekdays. This is nice to see kind of how rooms are getting utilized. Finally, you have a vehicle list. The vehicle list here is going to give us a listing of all the vehicles that we have. And you can also do this by vehicle type. And this is going to let us see our maintenance records for these different vehicles. So let's go ahead and go back all the way to 2016, and we'll run this through 2021. If I print this list, this will then show me any maintenance records I have on any vehicles I have here. And it shows you then a total, it shows you the mileage at the time of each service, the cost, who did the maintenance, what type of maintenance it was, and the description for each maintenance record. You can also get a blank maintenance form. Now, if you do a blank maintenance form, then this is something you can provide to somebody who's taking that vehicle in to get maintenance done. So you can, have them fill out all this information and then return this back to the church for whoever enters this information into the scheduler module. Okay, so that's our different scheduler reports. Now, the next thing I want to look at are just a couple of tools here in the scheduler module. And I'm going to go ahead, first off, talking about customizing field names. So you might recall earlier on in the training when I was talking about contacts and when I was talking about ministry routes, I can go in here and I can update basically these different field names. Like here, checkbox 1, that's the contact checkbox 1. So you might recall I said, well, you could rename this to be like background check. Okay, and I could save this. So if I close and reopen Shepherd Staff, I'll go ahead and do that really quick. Let me reopen Shepherd Staff here. Just a moment. Log back in. So if I were to now go into a contact and I were to go to the other tab, now you can see this checkbox is called background check. And we'll say, yes, there's been a background check done. We can check that box. So you can rename any of these fields to be whatever you need them to be. So that's how we can work with changing our field names. You just choose the field you're making the change to, and it'll tell you what that field is. Scheduler contact text 1. It'll tell you what that is specifically when you pick it. So that's how we can change field names. Now, the other options we have here are for cleaning up our scheduler module and for custom holidays. Now, the cleanup is an optional utility. You don't have to run the cleanup here in the scheduler, but let me show you what it does. What it's going to do is it's going to get rid of old events of a certain event type during the time period that you pick. So let's say you want to get rid of old worship events, and I want to get rid of any old worship events, let's say between 2012, let's say 1/1/2012 to, I don't know, let's say 12/31/2015. And this is going to show me every single event during that time period. All right. And we click continue, and when we click continue, that's going to go ahead and that's going to purge all of these events out of the system. Now that is a permanent process. Once those items are gone, they're gone. So you want to be careful about that. You can't export this list out to a spreadsheet if you'd like. But again, this is a purely optional process. You don't have to do this, but if you're wanting to clean up your scheduler module from old events, this is the way you would do that. Okay. Now, the other thing we offer in here is custom holidays. Now, what you might use custom holidays for, we include a lot, the major US holidays here on the calendars. But maybe you have dates that are important to your church. So you want to say, all right, coming up here, we have our church's 100th anniversary. So I'm going to go ahead and say November 12th, that's happening. We'll say Christ Community Church 100th anniversary. We'll just leave Anna there. And if I click add holiday, this is a holiday now that when I run my calendars, if I choose to show custom holidays, this would show up on the calendar then. So you can go in and you can add in these custom holidays. And if you need to make any changes to these, you can edit these as well. So again, this is more to add in holiday, special events for your church then that you might want to include on the calendar that maybe aren't whole events unto themselves. Maybe you have something planned. Maybe you have something planned at a specific time for those, but you want to just note on the calendar, hey, this is a special occasion that we want to take note of here. Okay, so that's our custom holidays. And with that, that's going to cover what we have to talk about here in the scheduler module. So let's go ahead now. Let's jump into our quiz. Now, there's only a couple questions here on this quiz. I'm going to go ahead and pull these up here. And let's go ahead and pull up our first question here. True or false? You can import your church members into the scheduler module as contacts. If we think back here to our schedule, back to our contacts, were we able to take people from our membership module and make them contacts in the scheduler module? So I'll give everybody some time to get that one answered. Looks like people are putting in their answers here. I'll give everyone just a few more moments to get that answered. Okay. All right, looks like most everyone who wants to answer has put their answer in. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And we were unanimous on this one, guys. Everyone said true. So let's see if you're right. And that is correct. You can manually add contacts into the scheduler module, but it's really easy to populate the contact record with the person's membership data if the person is in the system. So really, again, if the work has already been done in the membership module, save yourself the trouble. Import them from the membership module, and that's definitely going to save you some time. All right, next question up. If a change is made to a repeating event, you should delete all your remaining events and create new ones. If a change is made to repeated events, what should we do with that? If we make a change to these repeated events, so go ahead, true or false on this one. Should we go out and delete our old events, or is there something else we should be doing? So let's give you guys some moments here to get that answered. All right, I'm going to close this one out. All right, unanimous again. Good job, guys. And that is false. Yes, absolutely. So no, you don't have to go back and delete all those old events. You can definitely go through and just change a single event. Just go in and make your change to that single event, or you said, hey, from this point forward, I'm making these changes. Click that change event option. That's going to go ahead and push those changes out to those future events coming up. All right, last question. I only had the 3 for today's training. What report would you use to print a calendar style report of your church events? Is that going to be the events, calendar report, or the room usage report? Hopefully this one should be all right for you guys here. But what one are we going to use? Events, calendar, or room usage for that? Give everyone just another moment here. All right, close that out. Okay, and it looks like we're mostly unanimous on this one, and the answer to this one is B. Use the calendar report. This report will allow you to print monthly calendar style reports. This is something you can include in your church newsletter. I mean, just anything you want to use this for. The church calendar, that's going to be your best bet when it comes to getting a calendar style report. Now, the events report is going to give you a listing of all your events during a certain time period, but that's more of a list style report. So just depends on what you're looking for there. All right, now do you guys have any questions? I know there's definitely some questions asked. Hopefully myself or Rod have gotten to most of those here today, but if you've been holding on to your questions till the end, go ahead and ask those now. I am going to go ahead and just go to the next slide, but by no means is, is that, hey, you can't ask your questions anymore. But I just do want to thank everybody for coming to today's training. I really hope everybody learned something new on how the scheduler system works here in Shepherd Staff. If you have any questions, Of course, you can get a hold of Rod or I, but you can also give us a call here at this phone number, 800-346-6120, or you can also email us at support@cts.cph.org. So let me just go ahead and I'm going to scroll back through the questions here just while I'm waiting to see if anybody else has some questions, see if there's anything I missed. Let's see here. Looking at this, regarding challenges. Gotcha. So Marcia had mentioned it was kind of difficult to add things and after the fact. Yeah, if you take it out to Word and try to add things after the fact onto a calendar, sometimes that can be a little tricky. It may just be worth your while to go in and add a single event, like, what you're talking about, Marcia, it may just be worth your while to go in and add a single event just to say, hey, we're having this event here, and just re-exporting that calendar. It's probably going to be a better way to go, because then you'll also have the event record in your scheduler module, and you'll be able to keep, kind of report on that and keep track of it. But yeah, I'd say that'd probably be your best bet on that. Let's see here. Instead of closing out Shepherd Staff and reopening, nice to have an update button. I think that was in reference to the custom holidays. Yeah, can certainly put that in as feedback to our team. Okay, well, I haven't seen any other questions come in here, so I'm going to go ahead and close. We're going to go ahead and start closing down the training here for today. If there's no other questions, if you do think of any questions after the fact, just please get a hold of us here, and that's our support number and our email address. Either one of those is fine to get a hold of us at. So yeah, just go ahead and get in touch with us there. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar, and you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.